Welcome to the Virtual Campfire. My name is Sydney Williams, author and founder of Hiking My Feelings, and I'm so glad that you're here. The Virtual Campfire started as a replacement for what we were missing on the trail during the pandemic in 2020. We wanted to be sharing stories and listening to music and having conversations about hard topics at the end of a long day, shared in some of the most beautiful places in the world. In the absence of that, the Virtual Campfire was born, and 50-something episodes later, we're still here. And this season, we're doing things a little bit differently. Over the course of the next few episodes, we're going to be sharing stories from people who have been through our 12-week online program called Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love. Now, if you've been watching the Virtual Campfire or listening to the podcast from the beginning, you'll know that this program was launched after our initial 20 episodes of the Virtual Campfire. This program took everything that we had planned to do on the road in 2020 on my book tour through the US and Canada, workshops, retreats, overnights, group hikes, all of those things, and put them into a 12-week program that was available online so we could stay connected during the pandemic. Now we are getting ready to start our 4th class of this program on August 21st, and we couldn't think of a better way to get people hyped up about it, bring awareness to what we're doing, and share the stories of how this program has impacted real human lives than to bring on some of the people that have been through the program themselves. So I hope you have a nice, comfortable seat. I hope you have a beverage of choice, maybe a cozy blanket, maybe a journal. You never know what you're going to hear that you might want to jot down. So have a seat, sit back, relax. Unless you're driving, then keep doing what you're doing. But we hope you enjoy the Virtual Campfire. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm hiking my feelings, working with all the natural healing. We are the makers of lives in our community, working to set myself free while I'm hiking my feelings. Hiking my feelings.
All right, welcome to the Virtual Campfire. This is my favorite, one of my favorite parts of the Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love program, week 4, Face Your Fears. Today, I am talking with my good friend, Sweets. Sweets, do you want to go by Laurie or Sweets for the sake of this one?
Oh, Sweets is good.
Okay, cool. So Sweets is here. Sweets came and joined our 2nd class of Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love. So she was here for the 2021 program. She is going through it again this year. We love a repeater. And we are going to be talking about Face Your Fears, which is one of my favorite exercises. And to get us started, Sweets, tell us a little about who you are and where you're from, and we'll go from there.
My name is Laurie, and everybody calls me Sweets. And I live in Ashland, Oregon, but currently I am in Port Orford. I am park hosting for Oregon State Parks. And you can see in the background, that is Humbug Mountain. And we are on the Tatoochni land. Most of the Southern Oregon coast and Rogue River was originally inhabited by the Tatoochnis. And I am at a former Coast Guard lifeboat station, which is super apropos because Hiking My Feelings has been a lifeboat for me.
Oh, snap, segue. Bah, 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 bah. So you were actually, when we first got connected to record this episode, you were walking me down there. So tell me a little bit about this area and the history of it, because I was just fascinated by this space that you're occupying for the time being.
So behind me, you'll see a large mountain that is Humbug Mountain. There's a campground right there called Humbug Mountain Campground, and you can walk right to the trail or the beach from that campground. And that's about 6 miles from here, south from here. I'm in Port Orford. So Humbug Mountain's the tallest mountain on the Oregon coast, and you can hike it. I'm gonna hike it.
I want to hike it with you.
I know we need bumper stickers to say I hike that, right? And with an arrow. But so the Port Orford heads here is where the Coast Guard had a lifeboat station. And behind me that you can't see is a cove called Nellie's Cove. And if you're in Hiking My Feelings, you could look up my photos and you'll see a photo of it. but it's this turquoise cove that has all these old pylons where the lifeboat house used to be, and 2 lifeboats would stay down in the cove waiting. And these are huge steel, oh no, I'm sorry, they're wood. They have steel ballasts and they're wood, but they are huge lifeboats that are epic. And they would stay down there, and the Coast Guard guys would be up in the houses up here in the heads, and they'd have to walk 532 steps to get down to the lifeboats. And they were called the surfmen, and they were the ones you wanted to come and save you. I think they only lost one. They only had one loss in their whole history of saving lives. So pretty interesting. You could look up Port Orford Coast Guard station or lifeboat museum and learn all about it.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I love, and thank you for the land acknowledgement. That is something that we're really passionate about here at Hiking My Feelings. And I'm currently in the land of the Wabanaki people, where we are up in Maine currently. We're heading back down to San Diego next week, where we'll return to the Reggae Ranch, which is the stolen lands of the Kumeyaay people. And I love this layer, both the land acknowledgements and like specifically the context for the Coast Guard, just as extra layers of information for our adventures. I feel like it's a really nice way to connect with the land and the history of it, and acknowledge the folks that have stewarded it for lifetimes before we got here. So great way to open up. And I love the metaphor that we're going with here as Hiking My Feelings is a lifeboat. Like, I'll take that. That sounds great. So tell me a little bit about, like, I know where you came, like, I know where you are. I know you're in Ashland. I know a little bit of your story, but what led you to eventually finding Hiking My Feelings? Like, what's your story that got you here?
So I've been an avid hiker since I returned to Oregon in 2008. And before that, I should say, when I lived in New Mexico, I hiked some pretty big mountains. And that's probably what inspired me when I returned to Oregon, which is where I grew up, to continue to get out and hike places that I'd never been before, that you can't get to by car, right? So once I started hiking Oregon, I realized that there was so much more than to explore than I could ever possibly probably even do in my lifetime in this state. It's limitless. And when I started to get on the trail, I started discovering different archaeological things and plants, and I found that I was a very good mushroom forager. And so that drove my hiking experience to specific areas to find specific things. And it was like an Easter egg hunt, right? And I got really, really good at it. I started to learn about aspects and different terminology in the mushroom foraging world to figure out, just looking at a place, what's going to be there and what's not going to be there, and if it's worth your time. And so that became really a passion of mine for a couple of years. And I kind of got to the point where, I mean, you can only pick so many mushrooms. So I was getting like 100 pounds of mushrooms and bringing them to the restaurants, and that was cool. And I felt like I had kind of like conquered that one, And so I decided I really want to do the Oregon Coast Trail. And it's 372 miles, I believe. And I don't know that I'll plan to do it in what's it called, Sydney, when you do it from top to bottom? Yeah, not a through hike. I'll do it in segments, And I've done several segments, and it is stunning. And you're not walking on the beach. You're walking in soft needle paths, and it's just beautiful. And so my first go around with Blaze Your Own Trail, I set a goal to spend more time in my RV and find ways to be out to camp in nature, so that I could be closer to trails at the coast. And those goal setting activities sent me right where I am now. So a year later, I'm spending 5 months this year at the coast. And that's, it's like my new part-time home.
I remember when we were setting goals. So for folks that are unfamiliar, we break Blaze Your Own Trail up into three, like we have three themes. And like the first month, we're looking at finding inspiration in our stories through a Trail of Life Maps exercise. Month 2, we're looking at finding intention and setting intentions for the rest of the program and also like our life outside of it. And then the last month is about integrating all the lessons that we're learning. And I remember when you set this goal and I remember you showing us the RV and it was like, I don't think it was ready to go yet, but you were like, I have this RV. This is what I want to do. And to hear you say that you're spending 5 months on the coast less than a year later, girl, I cannot even with that information. Like I knew that I knew you were out there earlier this year. I know that you're spending some more time later this year, but almost half of your life this year will be spent in an environment that you dreamed up for yourself. Congratulations, Sweets.
Thanks, babe. So this time last year, Sydney, I was, the RV was sitting in my driveway and I had taken it out quite a bit, but it was a transition time because when I came to Blaze Your Own Trail, I was actually in a major crisis. The year before this year, the first year I did Blaze Your Own Trail, I was in a major crisis. I was in Stick Sisters Facebook group. Somebody recommended your book, and the next thing you know, I'm on the come on call for Blaze Your Own Trail, and you were like, come on, and I was like, okay. And it saved me. It completely saved me at a very critical moment of crisis, probably the worst time of my life. And so by the middle of the program, the RV was sitting in my driveway and it become sort of a storage unit, which was really a metaphor for a lot of things, just basically putting things in there and shutting the door, putting more stuff in there and shutting the door. It wasn't a mobile home. It was a storage unit in my driveway. It was parked. It was, and I spent so much time fixing it up in the first place. I was like, all I have to do is take everything out that doesn't need to go in there with me and never put it back in. And so I set the goal with y'all, and then we did like a cribs episode.
It was so good. I was like, Sweet, do it, please. Welcome to our crib.
Yeah, I had all the twinkle lights up and all the everything going and the music, and I haven't gone back since. I don't shove, Costco sized paper towels on the bed anymore. It's like it's a bed, it's ready to be slept in. The front bed's ready to be slept in. I have I'm off grid. I mean, I had to drive to be able to be here today. I'm where there's no internet, and I am so blessed for that experience because I'm really in touch with the animals and the plants and everything where I'm at. So yeah, I did it. And this year's new goals, and that's great. It's great to be able to set a goal, do it, be in this beautiful environment that I want to be in, and figure out how I'm going to grow more,
Yes. Well, and I think that there's in our retreat offerings, like something that we're working on this year is that I've really been reflecting on, and I have to credit my time in Maine for this, and also my time at the ranch. There's a couple things that I want to touch on that you mentioned. I love this metaphor of the RV being your storage unit. One, I just want to reflect that back to you. What a powerful, literal vehicle for growth, literal vehicle. There's so much of that I felt about how I was living in our house, before we moved into a van full time. The second I got in the van, the process of getting out of the house and into the van was painstaking. And it wasn't like we had a ton of stuff, but I had filled a whole house full of things. All of my moves from college to my early 20s, I drove around with what I could fit in my Civic. I would go, when I moved from Tampa to Chicago, I bought all new IKEA furniture, so it's not fancy furniture, but I bought all new IKEA furniture. And when I moved from Chicago to Austin and I was looking at the cost of moving all of the stuff I had just bought, it was cheaper to sell the stuff I had, buy new stuff than rent a truck and haul it down to Austin. And so when I was going from the house to the van, there was just like, I had checked all the boxes, right? Like I had my dream couch. Like I always wanted a gray couch that I could just sit on and have like these epic conversations. And I had that. And I wanted my KitchenAid mixer because like for some reason kitchen appliances signify adulting to me because that's the house I grew up in. Like when my mom got her mixer, it was a really big deal. And so I had all this stuff and like learning how to let go of that. I didn't realize it until you just said, but like my house was my storage unit and my house was also this thing where my emotions were just stuck in that house and I had filled up my body with these emotions and these stories. So tell me a little bit more about this RV metaphor and how this vehicle has now brought you to this place. And then I've got something else to dig into on the natural side of things.
Well, the RV, you know, I left a really toxic relationship right as I was coming into Blaze Your Own Trail. And the RV came with me, you know. So let's just skip all that. Do over. So it was a lot of work for me to get that RV. It took a lot for me to get that RV. And when I got the RV, I completely made it comfortable inside and beautiful. It was a labor of love because I knew that that RV meant freedom, meant I could be on the road and go see stuff. And, you know, I left the money making lifestyle a long time ago. So to be able to have a house on wheels that I could go travel and see things, but not have to worry about hotel prices and eating out prices like that. I was priced out of that kind of travel, you know, by the lifestyle that I chose. And so this RV on wheels, this made it so I could go and be free. And it's a huge symbol of freedom for me. Her name is Brave One, because she's a Winnebago Brave, and she takes me where I want to go, and she does a good job of helping me feel free.
Yeah.
And so it was a disservice to her to be just putting things in there and shutting the door. It felt cold and unlived in and unrespected. And I really was able to move through a lot of emotions by clearing that space and reclaiming it and giving it back the warmth and making it my, you know, my home again, my second home again.
Oh, I love that so much. And I think that there's so many things that we can draw using this RV as a metaphor. Like everything you just said, we could also say the same about our bodies and our experience on this planet, like unlived in, unrespected. Like I did not respect my body after the trauma I endured. Like I blatantly disrespected it, but creating this new life where we create space. I love that visual of creating space. It's so powerful. And I think one of the things that we talk a lot about over the course of Blaze Your Own Trail is the difference between spaciousness and emptiness. Like when we process these big feelings or we let go of relationships or material goods or the money-making lifestyle, like I fully have aborted that mission. There's this, when I initially started moving out of the house and into the van, I was creating space for adventure, space for me to manage my health in a way that felt good to me, that didn't require me to have health insurance. Like if I figured out my nutrition plan, if I figured out a life where I could prioritize hiking, then I didn't need to have a job to provide insurance to maintain my health. Like, yeah, I should go get checked up every once in a while. And I've been pretty not great at that. But this spaciousness, when I first, like those first few weeks in the van, something felt so different and it felt empty. Like it's like in my body, spaciousness and emptiness feel the same, but it wasn't until I started having all these different opportunities come across my lap that I realized that it was spaciousness, not emptiness. And in this, they feel in my body, like it manifests the same. It feels like a pit in my stomach. It feels like I want to have like tears, but I was never alone. Like you wake up and you hear the birds, you're not alone. You wake up, you hear the wind moving through the trees, you're not alone. Like when we are able to connect to something bigger than ourselves and bigger than just being human, we're able to feel more connected and feel a sense of belonging that we might not have been able to find elsewhere. So I really love that metaphor of the RV.
I completely relate to creating, making space for adventure, making space for just ourselves to know what it feels like to have that spaciousness, to not be filled with, the daily or the mundane that perhaps, is necessary at times. But sorry, something you said. Sorry, Sydney.
You're good.
But I absolutely agree. Having the space to be with yourself so that, you can wake up and I can hear the birds. I look out my door, I see elk, there's river otter in the pond. Last night I cleared the beach. I waited a little bit past sunset and I was like, okay, it's time for you guys to go. I'm closing the park now. I'm ready to have my alone time.
Well, and I think there's the other part that I wanted to touch on, and something that I've come to recognize in Maine that I now have a greater appreciation for it, with regards to our home base at the Reggae Ranch when we're not touring, is this idea of like nearby nature and being in a space and being open to a space long enough that you can see the changes. And for me personally, I haven't had an actual winter since I did one winter in Chicago. But I haven't given myself like the metaphorical winter, this period of rest and relaxation and recharging and hibernation, frankly, since before my assault. So for the last 16 plus years, I haven't given myself that. And one of the questions that I had for myself coming here, especially in light of my diabetes diagnosis in 2017, was I started walking as part of my diabetes management. And then when that was too easy, air quotes, I started hiking. And I've been in motion since I was diagnosed. Like I haven't really given myself an opportunity to rest from the work, but I've also been just hiking all the time. And one of the questions I had for myself was like, am I running from something? And I've discovered here that I haven't. And one of the things that's been the most inspirational, and what I'd love to talk with you about next, is when we got here, it was on the brink of winter, right? So like the trees had the leaves had fallen from the trees, but the lake was not frozen yet. So it was cold outside. We hadn't gotten our first snow yet. And over the course of the 4 months that we've spent in Maine, we saw the lake freeze over entirely to where the ice was 7 or 8 inches thick and we could go run around on the frozen lake and do things. We saw the snowfall. We saw the snow melt. Now the lake is starting to thaw out. And just yesterday, it was so cool. We've had the privilege of, like, when we go out to the woodshed that's behind me, in the dead of night, when we're getting ready to like get our last bundle of wood before we go to bed, we could hear the snowfall and we could hear the lake like freezing, and it makes this really cool like sound, and it's magic. And yesterday, Barry and I were standing out on the dock looking at how the lake was moving, because the ice from the shore about 30 feet out had melted, but the rest of the lake from that point to the other side of the lake was still frozen. And over the course of the day yesterday, it's like the ice had broken from the opposite shore, and this huge like iceberg that is this frozen lake just shifted back towards our dock. And so we were out there just like observing, and then we heard the loons, because the loons had left by the time we got here. We heard them when we came to visit the cabin in August, but they had left by the time we got here to stay here. And so the loons are back, and we knew that they come back in April, and we're like, oh my gosh, I hope we get to hear the loons. The trees have buds on them. Last night we saw a beaver, and now there's all these birds, and the chipmunks are out and the squirrels are doing their thing. And it's like this forest, this rural lakeside property in Maine is coming alive. And
it's an awakening.
It is so cool. And like, I've never been able to observe or appreciate winter transitioning into spring. And for me, the past 6 weeks have been a really difficult emotional winter for me. Like, I have been doing shadow work like it's my job. Like everything that I've ever, and it wasn't even anything that I was consciously avoiding, but it was just like learning how to sit with discomfort, not offloading it immediately, understanding how my writing influences all this. And the thing that I'd love to hear more about is, you said that you started when you got back to Ashland and in Oregon in general, you were in the forest and you're foraging for mushrooms, and now you're out on the coast. And one of the things that we're doing at Hiking My Feelings this year is with our partnerships with different charitable arms of national parks, like the Joshua Tree National Park Association, upcoming with the Sequoia Parks Conservancy, is taking inspiration from the outer wilderness and equating it to our inner wilderness. So what I mean by that is, for me, when I am hiking in like Yosemite or the Redwoods or Ashland, when I was up there and doing Pilot Rock, when I'm under a tree canopy, it feels like this safe container where I'm protected and I have like the forest is holding me. And that's where I just lose it on the trail. And I have just dump tears out of my face. Like it's like the Trail of 10 Falls in Silver Falls State Park in Oregon coming out of my face. And when we go to Joshua Tree or like Montana or Grand Teton, it's this huge, open, expansive sky. And that's where I get my best ideas. So I'm curious, from your journey from foraging for mushrooms in the forest in the early stages of this journey to now you've gone through this program, you've set these goals, you're spending 5 months on the Oregon coast. Does that idea of having the protection of the tree canopy and now in the coast, like, look at how open it is, it's gorgeous. Does that match your experience? Do you find some alignment with that kind of idea of the outer wilderness matching what we're dealing with internally?
Absolutely, definitely. I totally was relating to that feeling that you were saying, the redwoods, and a lot of the trails here, they start like that, like a tunnel and a canopy, and then you're headed to the ocean, right? And the ocean for me has represented the ocean has been the transformation representation for me. Last year, to come to the ocean, and the idea of the wave. So the wave is the water and the water is the wave, so the idea that there's a lesson in the peak as well as the wake. The wave has this wake, and it's a cycle, and it continues to represent to me how my life is moving in waves. And I was just thinking of Brendan Clemente's song, right?
Yes, I dream in waves.
Because I dream in waves, right? So anyway, the ocean does represent another type of expanse for me, similar to what I think canyonlands or big desert hikes do, but with the water, right? So bringing this like rebirth, this new ocean is constantly bringing new water in and pulling out and coming in, and the sand's changing every day. And so I do feel like at this point in my life, the ocean is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And at the time that I was doing more of foraging was kind of my thing for a while, and so I was spending a lot of time in darker forests at different times of year. And I learned so much from that. But I do feel like there is definitely some symbolism in the idea that I sort of broke free from that I learned what I wanted from that, and then that I was able to move forward and say, what's next? And be able to see that habit energy doesn't always serve you. Sometimes you need to understand that there are, what do they say? They say, what do they say? If you reach the fork in the path, like whichever path you take is the right path, right? Or whatever. So yeah, like just keep moving forward, because here I am. And I didn't think that this time last year, I didn't think that I would be able to spend some of these like winter months that are super sunny at the coast, and then when it gets really hot inland, I'll be like in the sweet ocean breeze, and that even just the climate like just makes me feel more alive and healthy. The air is so clean. There's a lot less people. It's exactly what I need right now.
And I love that again, you've created the space for that, and you've worked through whatever you need to work through to get to this point, to believe that it was A, possible, and B, that you could, and that you have. When it comes to like the changing of the seasons, something that I'm going to be really interested in hearing about, Sweets, what you've witnessed so far, because you've already done a period at this camp that you're hosting at, and you're doing more periods, is I'm so interested to hear how the land changes over the course of the year and what the seasons look like on the coast. Have you noticed differences already from when you were there last time?
Well, everything that was not green is now green. So
yeah, your background is stunning.
Yeah, all of the trees that have leaves have started leafing out, and so that's pretty great. I know that next week there's going to be a lot of rain, so I'm getting the sun as much as I can. You know, we can't really escape the rain at the Oregon coast. It doesn't rain all day every day, but I know that we are due for some rain. So but the change of the seasons where I'm sitting, I definitely took a series of photographs the last month I was here in February, and I'll be doing another series, and then there'll be a summer series and possibly a fall series of this stand of willows. That will probably be the most remarkable change. But you know, there's a lot of stasis here at the Oregon coast. Like even the grass goes dormant for a while, so you'll have green grass here that isn't even really growing, but it feels lush, you know, and that's part of the draw for me too, is the seasons aren't quite as remarkable. But now that everything's leafing out and turning green, you know, it's spring for sure.
I love that. And I want to invite you to share the story of your relationship with these elk that you share this space with. Elk are, so we had seen elk like at a distance in some of our hikes in previous years, but we went backpacking in the Grand Tetons during the rut last fall. I am obsessed with elk sounds. Like I love their bugle. And when we heard the loons last night, Barry and I looked at each other and were like, elk, loons, favorite animal sounds, hands down. So tell us about your elk buddies at your camp.
I would love to. I'm dying to. So I call them the 14. So the 14 are my BEFFs, my best elk friends forever. And I could not wait to get back to them. And so in February, they started coming down to my RV and eating and resting basically on my front lawn. And so and they come, you know, pretty much just at dusk and at dawn. So right around the time when I'm opening and closing the gate. And the first morning I went out to open the gate, I walked out my front door without looking, and they were like right there. And it was cool. We're cool. Like they're cool with me, and I'm cool with them, because they must really, I mean, obviously they just must sense my energy is just, my heart is completely open to them. I don't want to disturb them or scare them. And I would even go so far as to say I would protect them. So I was like, oh, they're right there. I was like, okay, I gotta go open the gate. Oh, that can wait. So I waited a little while, and they stirred a little bit and moved on. And then I did get the gate open. But you know, I'd count them every single time I saw them, because I wanted to make sure like nobody was missing, right? So
do you have your buddy?
Yes, they became the 14. And so and I, you know, I did walk past them and near them quite a bit, and they became very docile in my presence. They did not run off. I didn't attempt to, you know, I don't approach them, but I need to do what I need to do. So we coexisted very peacefully. And then the last couple of days of February, it was raining really hard, and they weren't coming down to eat. And I was feeling very sad that I wasn't going to get to say goodbye to them. And so I stood at my door of my RV on the highest step, and I put both my hands to my mouth, and I basically, yodeled a song to them. I really had no idea that their sounds were called bugling, because they hadn't been making any sounds. They were not in their rut or anything. But I just was singing this song, and I was singing as loud as I could, and I was making it up as I went, and they came down. They came down from the woods, and they watched me sing, and they ate, and they hung out for a good hour and a half, and I felt like I got to say goodbye. And so I was just, I was literally like, my face was leaking, and I couldn't control my joy, my joyful tears, and it felt really like closure for me, being able to go home having said goodbye to my, I mean, they're like the people, they're the guys I see every day. And so when I came back April 1st, I was wondering, if there were going to be all 14, and if they had been hanging out. And I parked the RV, and I literally went around to hook up the electricity. Yay for electricity. And I walked back around, and I got up in the RV, and I looked across the way, and they had come down, and it was like 1:30 in the afternoon. They don't come down at 1:30 in the afternoon. So they probably know the sound of my rig and me, they're very perceptive. And they came down and hung out for a good amount of time just across the way. And I've seen them every day since. So yeah, the 14 are going strong, and they're looking healthy and bigger. They're looking, their horns seem to have grown in that short amount of time. So I'll be taking pictures of them too, as a seasonal little.
My face hurts from smiling so hard. I love them so much. I just can't. And I love this for you. I love that you have a community of elk. And what are the other months that you're spending time at this place?
I'll be there in July, and also September and October.
Oh my God, you're going to be there for the rut. I'm so excited.
I know, that'll be interesting. I'll probably be a little bit more, I just don't make a lot of eye contact, but they're very funny. I mean, the young ones, when I go shut the gate, the young ones will go to the gate and sniff it and like rub on it like they want to smell me. So I feel like I'm an honorary elk mama.
I love this honorary elk mama energy for Sweets. This is perfect. Oh, it's so good. Okay, so when we're talking about facing our fears, so we talked about how you got into the program last year. We talked about the goals that you set, and how now you're on this coast, you're living this dream, this goal that you set. It's coming true. It's happening. It's real life. You're in the moment. How has that particular module been for you this year?
Well, I decided to blaze my own trail again this year for what I would call next level healing, right? And so I knew that, I know that we have the unlimited capacity to grow, and that the healing, the healing never ends. It's a verb, right? It's something we do. We are healing. I personally don't believe that I ever be able to say I'm healed. It's a constant, and it may not come up. Little things may not come up for long periods of time, but we grow from them into this. We transform it. We transform the fear into something, right? And so the fear, the healing doesn't end, and the fear doesn't stop coming either for me. So if I am accepting of that, then I know that I can say fear will visit. What do I do? What can I do when fear comes? So, for me, I had to make some really clear decisions about fear. And I've kind of personified fear. So when fear comes to visit, what do I do? So I can have my door open. The front door can be open to fear. It can come visit, and the back door can be open because it can also show itself out. I can dismiss it. I can dismiss a fear if I decide it's not a rational fear, or it's not a fear that's going to help me in any way. I can dismiss the fear. If it's a, I can dissolve the fear perhaps. If it's, again, maybe it's not a real fear, maybe it's something that my habit energy has allowed to keep coming back because of something that in my past, or something that I've dreamt about the way it will be in my future, if this, if that. So you can dissolve a fear because maybe it's not a real fear. I can dissolve a fear, me. I can dismiss it, I can dissolve it, I can embrace a fear and know that maybe this is a fear that is a real fear, and it's okay to accept that fear. Um, and I think that the thing that Blaze on Trail has been really a catalyst for me to um, transform fear. And I'm saying we turn fear to fierce, right? That's what we're doing. We're transforming fear into fierce. So this year I was faced with a medical procedure that the medical procedure alone is a colonoscopy, and it's very important that we get screened. And I'm a few years past due for my first screening. And I had some major fear around sedatives and elective procedures because around my age, my father died in an elective procedure under an anesthesia of a heart attack. So I was very concerned that that could also happen to me. And that brought up so many fears around my family, even my dog. Like, my dog and my son and my mom would be without me, and that made me very sad. And it also made me very fearful that I would make the wrong decision to go and have this procedure and then end up dying because of my undetected heart condition, anesthesia. All these fears came up. Lots and lots of fears came up, but I couldn't see past the fact that the screening needed to be done. So I asked all the questions. I got as much information as I could. I asked all the questions. I asked for the procedure to be done without a sedative. They weren't going for that. They need you not to move, and they say, you need to be sedated. So we went with the lowest level of sedation. I made it through the procedure. It was very, very scary, making that decision. Do we want to stop there or keep going?
Well, how did you guide yourself through that? Like, were there tools that you've picked up along the way that helped you through that process? Because, like, to be aware of the fear is one thing that is worth celebrating. To be able to articulate, I am scared of doing this, and here's why: my father, his death, the conditions under which he died. But how did you move from awareness to action on that?
Well, my intuition and my body let me know a lot. So my body was saying something might not be right, and my intuition was saying, listen to your body.
How nice that they're working together. That's beautiful.
Right, they definitely, and then I tried to take the fear out of it and look at it very logically and say, if you don't get this screening, what does that mean? It means you don't know the information that is may be very important. Knowing that okay, so getting down to the brass tacks, I guess. And I don't know where that saying comes from, but I will find out.
I don't either. We'll look it up.
Once I found out that the sedative that they were going to use, they also use if I were a heart patient, they would still recommend that same sedative. It's safe for heart patients. It made me feel more at ease because I was not afraid of the procedure. I was afraid of the sedative. I was afraid of it bringing my heart rate down and not knowing if I was healthy enough to withstand that. And so I meditated. I asked a lot of questions. Questions of the health team. I chose the best doctor available to me, best surgeon available to me. And then I just told my mom and my son that I had lived a very fulfilled life and that this was very important and that we needed to find out, I need to do this screening and I am scared and I want to live. And then I asked a lot of people to keep me in their thoughts and prayers, whatever that looks like. And I had to be brave. I don't know. Does that answer?
Of course. Yes. That's beautiful. So how'd it go?
Well, it was supposed to be a 20-minute procedure, ended up being a 2-hour procedure. They removed a tangerine-sized growth from my colon, and I was sedated, so I did not know till afterwards that we'd been in there that long or what had happened. In the recovery room, the doctor came in and he told me we removed a very large growth. We think we got it all, and he showed me a picture and I didn't know what I was looking at. It's still kind of strange to look at the picture. I was like, what am I looking at? But I said, okay. And I said, how big? And he put his hands up, he was like this big, like size of a tangerine. I was like, how does that even fit in our body? But so I said to him, so what are we, I was still under sedation, but I said, so what do we think here? Like 50-50 chance it's cancer? And he's like, no, like 1% chance. I said, oh, well, that's better than 50-50. So I went home thinking that it would be 7 to 10 days before I got the pathology report. And I got a call the next day, and it was non-cancerous. They call that now precancerous, meaning we need to check it to make sure that there's no more growths in a short amount of time, or that we, to make sure we got it all. So I'll be getting another colonoscopy in 6 months. I won't be nearly as scared now that I've gone through it. Sometimes we have to walk through the fire, that's just what I had to do. I had to walk through the fire. I had to be brave. Because,
Yes,
you could just blow it off and just go along, but it's going to sit back there, the not knowing if you are actually harming yourself by not getting checked. I had a friend die last year of colon cancer, and we have our friend Tim, who is waiting for a liver, and he's pushing for early screenings too, so we can't let it go. I told my brother, I said, I know you're only 45, but go get it now.
Yeah.
Get it early.
No reason not to. I dig it. Well, I'm glad that it was good news. And I one of the things that was really impactful that you mentioned about how the concern stemmed from your father's health history. Tell me about the day that you got the good news and what that signifies now.
So it so happened to be my father's birthday when I got the call. And, the time between when I picked up the phone and she told me the news on the phone seemed like a millennium. I didn't know why they were calling or what, because it was just the next day. I could not believe it. I was like, can you wait, slow down? Can you say it again? Like I wanted her to say it again slower, because I was very concerned that the pathology was going to be a different story. And I was already headed to the coast, like within a few days. So I was planning on getting the news while I was over here. To be able to get the news, take a huge sigh of relief, know that I'm going to continue to get my body checked for these things, and all the tears, and then jumping on with my Hiking My Feelings family who was waiting to hear and saying, it came back, I'm okay. It came back, I'm okay for now. You know, that was huge. Oh my gosh. I hear geese right now, like a whole flock. I'm gonna just,
Oh, cool.
oh, they're down near the water. You can't see them, but they're down right on the water and they're so loud. Maybe they'll come in closer. Um, so that was, I got to celebrate that on my father's birthday, which was really special. And I also got to leave for my coastal trip with that behind me,
Mhm.
which was very freeing. So
Yes, creating more space.
I didn't know when I came to Blaze Your Own Trail this year for my next level healing, I didn't know what my next level healing would be. And clearly, I've experienced something, a major transformation of fear doing this medical stuff, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it certainly sounds like it. And I'm really glad you're still here. and that we were there to receive that news. Like there's so many moments over the last almost 4 years that just take my breath away. And when I think of like the Mind movie that will play for all things Hiking My Feelings, like that call in your face and just being like, because I was like, you were emotional, rightfully so. And I was like, what's the news? What's the news? Like, I can't read her face. Like, I think she's happy, but I'm not entirely sure. Is this nervous energy? Is this excited energy? And I'm just so thankful that we were able to share that with you. So thank you for being open, and thank you for sharing that part of your story and for advocating for early screenings. Because like you mentioned, my buddy Tim, who was on the podcast last year, was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. I want to say 2019, 2020. And they gave him 3 years to live. And he was like, that's not going to be my story. And so he recently had a colon resection. Life is good on the colon cancer front. And now he's, like you said, he's looking for a living donor. And it's important to screen so we don't have to get to that point. Like that's one of Tim's big messages, is just making sure that we get those screenings so you don't have to repeat his experience. So shout out to early screening for colon cancer, and we'll throw some links in the show notes for how you can learn more about that, because it's a very important part of life on Earth in a human body. So I want to say
thank you. I want to say thank you for creating a Hiking My Feelings and Blaze Your Own Trail space, so that I could have a safe place to bounce ideas off people, and caring and loving open hearts that support all that growth around all of that, facing my fears and getting from last year to this year. It's been really pivotal for me to have you in my circle, and yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and you and ours. I was looking at the registration for BYOT this for the winter course for 2022, and I was like, Sweets is not on this list. I'm gonna reach out to Sweets and see if she wants to rejoin, and like let's get you going. And you were like, I was just thinking about this. I was like, universe.
I was like, this time last year, I was blazing my own trail of self-love, and I'm pretty sure I still got room to blaze some more trail.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you saying that earlier. And it's something that we say a lot here, is like, there is no, like you're standing with Humbug Mountain behind you, but Healed Mountain doesn't exist. Like you don't reach the summit of it and then you're like, I'm healed. Hey, like that doesn't happen. Like it is a lifelong journey. And just like a trail, like life is ups and downs, twists and turns, and some cool wildlife along the way. Hopefully the 14 stick around and do some more stuff. So shifting gears a bit, is there anything else from the program, from your personal growth journey in or out of the program, that has stuck out to you, that is part of your toolbox that you use when you're confronting difficult things?
Well, I think that we can't go too into Hiking My Feelings without talking about music, right?
Yes.
So I think that the healing power of music and the healing power of the trail and the healing power of community are like the trifecta, right? And so I feel like music brings a lot of people to Hiking My Feelings, perhaps. I
Yes.
think that a lot of sisterhoods are tuned into what you're doing, Sydney, and then it just kind of brings us all together, and then we end up at music events together and hiking events together. And I think that the ability to share the music that heals us with others kind of gives it more life and more momentum and more healing. So I just think that the power of music is equally as important as the power of the trail in helping us move forward. And I mean, I feel that there are a lot of people out there that have no sense of community or very little sense of real community, open hearts, non-judgmental people that will hold space for whatever they need to say or feel or do. And um, I can't express in words how Hiking My Feelings has created that open space for anybody, anyone, from any walk of life, from any gender identity, from any size, any shape, anything. Anyone can come here, be seen, be heard, be felt, share music, dance together, cry together, sing together, be silly together. And I mean, it's been an experience for me in actually opening myself up to being more heart-centered towards people that I might not necessarily choose to come in contact with on a daily basis. So I just think it's for anyone. And I think for that reason alone, it's one of the most beautiful spaces, and anybody who comes here changes for the better, moves through emotions and fears and turns fear into fierce.
I love that.
There's no way out of it other than on the other side, and this will get you there. I'm just so grateful for sharing music and hiking. It's the most healthy transformation experience I've ever had.
Well, and I thank you for bringing up the music part, because that has before hiking my feelings, this music, this reggae, American reggae, Cali roots, whatever you want to call it, was so pivotal for me. And in fact, when I was writing my first book, when I got off the island and I started in 2018, and I started like connecting the dots on the story between the first hike and the second hike and how this land had healed me. While I knew that not everybody would relate to the trauma I've experienced, and I've experienced a bunch of different kinds of trauma, but my experience certainly doesn't encompass all of the big T and little T traumas that exist. But what I did do is I went, and as soon as I got off the island, we were talking to REI, and then we had this opportunity to do the speaking tour in 2018 and 2019. And it was 2 back-to-back shows. It was the Stick Figure, Slightly Stupid, and Pepper Schools Out for Summer tour in 2018. And we went to the show in Vegas. We flew out there. We had VIP. We were on stage standing behind like K-Bong for the Stick Figure set and behind Kaleo for the Pepper set, and then side stage for Slightly Stupid. And then we flew home and we rushed right back to San Diego for Bayfest for the BeerX 91X concert. And it was that tour with this concert. And we had backstage access for that. The dispensary that Barry was working at the time was sponsoring that event. So we knew a whole bunch of people backstage. We kind of lingered backstage. We like hid our wristbands and we were like, just walk around like you own it. And like you belong here, you'll be fine. And it was, and that was where I got to meet like K-Bong kind of for the first time, because we had bought a painting that Jimmy Ovadia did of Coco. And those 2 back-to-back experiences in Vegas, the thing that I'll remember that really inspired me was listening to during Weight of Sound, the song by Stick Figure. I took off my shoes and I felt the music come up through my feet from the stage. And I had never experienced anything like that before. When I'm on the floor at a concert, you feel the bass in your chest primarily, but to feel it just rise up from the stage and then like come through my whole body was something that I had never previously experienced. And when I got home, I knew that I liked Stick Figure. We were there for Pepper and Stupid primarily, but I knew that Stick Figure was on my playlist and that I really enjoyed it. But I didn't realize it was one of those moments where you're like, I didn't know how many of these songs I know. And we got home and then I listened to Scott's entire catalog, like every single song in order, every album in order in which it was released. And I selected songs that matched up to the timeline that was my journey between 2016 and 2018 on these 2 hikes, because I figured like, well, you might not be able to relate to my trauma necessarily, and you might not even be a hiker. I know that music has the power to transform people, and I know it has the power to heal people. And even if you don't listen to the lyrics, and the songs I picked were specifically for the lyrics because I'm a lyrics junkie, but even if you don't listen to the lyrics and that's not how you consume music, the music itself, the notes, the space between the notes, that is something that can resonate with people as well. So that's something that we've been working really hard to integrate into our events, and to be able to do that first retreat with Kaleo and from Pepper, and then have Melanie join us as well and doing yoga and like incorporating all of these things that are so important to me. After a couple of these on Catalina, and K-Bong was able to come to both of them and really just amplified it. And then Derek, Man of the Forest, came and did the second one. I was just sitting there and I was like, really what we're doing here. And I've been trying to find like the right positioning for Hiking My Feelings, because I really think this work is for everybody. Everybody can benefit from it. But when it comes down to it, the 3 healing modalities that we're so passionate about integrating in as many ways as we can is mindfulness, music, and movement. Mindfulness with all of the things that we do with the self-care, with the self-discovery exercises, with programs like Blaze Your Own Trail. Movement, obviously hiking, but also like, it's not just hiking, like any activity that gets you outside and off your device can help you heal in the way that I found healing on the trail. And then of course the music aspect. And it's so magical. And I'm so thankful. Like as much as I wish the pandemic never happened, to be able to have access to these artists who weren't touring and did want to participate in something like that was such a unique experience. And as we move into this year where live music is back, festivals are on, I knew that things would look different, and that we might not have access to these artists because they'll be on tour and stuff like that. But to be able to co-create something with Kaleo, and now looking ahead to co-creating some retreats with K-Bong, it's just magic. And where we can't have live music at the event, we're putting these events leading up to a music event. Because like, if you can go, like specifically for our Big Sur retreat, to be able to go and spend time in the redwoods and get grounded and feel that sense of community in a smaller container, and then go expose yourself and bathe yourself in sound and also like a bigger crowd, is such a magical combination. So I'm really glad that Stick Sisters exists. Shout out to Crystal Holt for getting that started. And yeah, and we've seen so many sisters come through these programs, and it's so cool to be able to support the people who love the music through the things that the music is also helping them heal, to give them tools outside of the music to bring that healing home. So looking back over the last few years in your life in general, knowing what you know now about your personal journey, if there's anybody that's listening that's heard some kind of something that aligns to their story, whether it's fear of a medical procedure or getting out of a toxic relationship and hitting the road with your RV, literally or metaphorically, knowing what you know now, what would you offer younger Laurie or younger Sweets as words of encouragement or advice for that?
Well, don't make me cry.
Crying's cool. I did it yesterday. I'll do it today.
I know, right? I think that I was like, well, is it cliche to say don't wait? But it's not cliche if it's what you mean. Don't wait. And sometimes a holding pattern is to get your ducks in a row or to plan, and I get that. But my waiting was really the holding pattern. My waiting was really fear, stagnation, staying in a choice that wasn't right for me for too long. And I feel blessed and wonderful and amazing to be where I am now, and I also feel that I lost some time. And I feel like I'm a healthy 52-year-old woman, but I keep using the word but. I feel like I'm a healthy 52-year-old woman, and there's so much more for me to do and so much life available to me because of the choices I'm making now. But don't wait.
Yeah.
I would tell younger me, don't wait. And don't be afraid. And if you are afraid, face your fears. Look at them and see what they really are made of. Are they fears you can transform, and make sure you're surrounded by love. If you're not surrounded by love, it's time to move on.
Oof. I'm gonna soak that up for a second. That is some good stuff. I think also, in addition to don't be afraid and don't wait, I think it's never too late to change your mind. It's never too late to shift your perspective. It's never too late to face your fears. Like, you're a healthy 52-year-old woman, and thank goodness you started this journey when you did. Like, you have a whole runway of lifetimes ahead of you to move through this world with this new understanding and this new acceptance and this new awareness and this new love. And it's never too late to start that journey. It's for some of us, we are fortunate enough to be raised by parents that have the tools to teach us how to do this. And we learn how to process things early and easily because it's just what we do. But to come into something at 50 years old, 52 years old, and be so patient and so aware of how long it can take to undo decades of these thought patterns, of these behaviors. As you put it earlier, I love this phrase, habit energy. To be able to do that and not judge yourself for it and not penalize yourself for taking too long, air quotes, is such a beautiful thing to witness. And I think that's a really crucial takeaway too. Like, don't wait, don't be afraid. And also, it's never too late, which can help transform that fear of it's too late into, no, it's not. This is an opportunity. So I love that.
I feel like I'm a great example of it's not too late. And I do want to be an example to those who may be struggling. And I want them to see a shining example of it's not too late.
Well, you are an example of it's not too late. So last question. This is one of my favorites. Magic wand time. So yeah. So also, I've kind of amended this because somebody asked if they could use their magic wand on themselves. It's your magic wand. You can use it for whoever, whatever, whenever you want. So Laurie Sweets, with your magic wand, what are you doing with it? What is happening on the other side of your magic wand?
Very interesting, because I was trying to think of what my magic wand was the last time I did this exercise, and I couldn't even bring it up because it seems like lifetimes happen in between. But my magic wand, very often I want to use my magic wand to eliminate obesity, because I personally understand how devastating obesity can be for people. I'm just gonna say, yesterday I still have some habit energy around my own body size, and yesterday I was like, well, if I look cute when I go to the mechanic, he'll give me I won't get the fat girl rate, I'll get the cute girl rate, right? So anyway, I've been feeling like a fat girl my whole life, and not in a good way. Because the way people have made me feel. That it's one of the things that people I feel openly discriminate about, and it's very hard on people who live in bigger bodies. So I guess you could say eliminate obesity with the magic wand, or you could just eliminate judgment, body judgment, because it's not about my body, it's about how other people are perceiving and behaving around my body. So they're the ones with the problem, right?
100%. Snaps on that.
Yeah. So I would really want to release people from judgment, so that people could be free to love each other for what others really are. And so to me, that's just a huge umbrella for many, many things. So if we release humans from suffering due to judgment, and you know, people who judge also suffer, you know. So that would release us from prejudices and expectations, and allow us to see each other for each other's hearts. So I'm going to say that.
Well, speaking of that, hearts and lights, for most of this recording today, the sun has been like on your crown, and it has like, there's been points in time where you're kind of rotating around, and you just have this orb just illuminating you. And like, as the time has been shifting over the course of this conversation, I'm just like, you are like a literal lighthouse, girl. You are on the coast. You are with the lifeboats. And it's been so wonderful chatting with you, Sweets. I thank you for joining us. Thank you for your spirit and your support and your vulnerability and your courage and your bravery and the way you hold space. Every single call that you join, no matter how you show up, is warmer because of you. So thank you for being part of our community, and thank you for your time today.
Oh, thank you, Sydney. You're my beacon. You're a great teacher and a great learner, and you make me a great learner and a great teacher. I love you.
I love you.
If you're curious about how to make your next hike a bit more mindful, visit hikingmyfeelings.org/subscribe to download our free Trail Thoughts worksheets.